thanks for joining us for this panel, which is part of our career exploration webinar series. And today's discussion focuses on the career paths and experiences of women who have had professional careers, specifically in public relations and communications. I am Dr. Susan Madsen, founding director of the Utah Women in Leadership Project, and I'm also the Karen Haight Huntsman Endowed Professor of Leadership in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University, and I'm the host and will be the panel moderator today. So our career exploration webinars, they further the mission of the Utah Women in Leadership Project, which is to strengthen the impact of Utah girls and women. And I want to thank our sponsors, the Utah Education Network, the John M. Huntsman School of Business, and USU Extension. So to get us started, I would like to introduce our three panelists and ask each of them why they chose to focus their careers in the field of communication. So Ruth, I'm going to start with you. Ruth Todd is the Executive Vice President and Chief Content Officer for Bonneville International. Now, prior to that, she was the Senior Vice President and Chief Revenue Officer for Nu Skin. The former KSL TV news anchor, who she was, earned her degrees at BYU, a bachelor's in communications and journalism, and also a master's in business administration. So Ruth, first question to you, why did you choose to focus your education and your career in communications?
Thanks, Susan, and it's such a delight to be here, and we're so excited, all of us. We were talking before the recording started. We're just so excited to be in the classroom or in a place where we can talk to younger people. It's so energizing. When I was a little bit younger, I don't think I could have ever quite put my finger on what I wanted to be when I grew up, but I did know that I liked to be up on current events, what was happening in the world, and I liked to write. I liked writing, creative writing, and I wasn't that great at it, but I enjoyed it. So I enjoyed, and then I was a big reader. I always liked reading growing up. And then I liked meeting about their stories. And so if you put all of those together, then it kind of pushes you toward communications. And communications is broad. It's almost as broad as what your likes and abilities and capabilities are. If you have any of those similarities, you probably can find a home in communications.
I love that. And in just a minute, we'll talk about the kind of the different careers that you could have within that broader category of communications. So Sonita Claiborne is the Public Relations and Communications Director for the University of Utah, where she develops marketing and communication strategies for executive leadership. She oversees project management and forecasting for marketing campaign launches and supervises and manages the digital media team and public relations team. It's a busy job, Sonita. and Sonita has a bachelor's degree in communications from the U and a master's in digital media management from USC. So same question to you, Sonita. Why did you choose to focus your education and career in communications?
Yeah, thanks, Susan. I just want to say I'm a little sick right now, so my voice might be a little bit off. So if I sound like Kermit the Frog, that's why. And I also want to give a shout out also that I got my associate's degree from Salt Lake Community College. So go Salt Lake Community College too. So yeah, so it's kind of interesting how I got into communications. It wasn't really until like my second year of college where I kind of figured out what I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. Like I knew I liked psychology. I knew I liked entertainment. I liked different types of fields, but just like Ruth had mentioned, I had so many different interests, and it wasn't until I took my second year of college in communications where I realized that I could tell these stories for all different sorts of areas. And so once I was able to kind of take that communications class and learn that I can tell a story about, the film industry, or I can tell a story about science, that's when it really resonated with me, and it's took off ever since.
Oh, I love that. And, I was just thinking as you said that my original bachelor's degree was in communication, but it's really in speech communication. So, and debate. So I was a debater. So, but that communication, so I went in a whole different direction, but that communications field is more, is so broad in some ways, but I love the background of all three of you. So I'm excited about these questions. So Sharlene Wiles is a Senior Vice President of Public Relations and Organizational Communications for Mountain America Credit Union. She has also been the Director of Communications for the U.S. Department of Defense, is a former ESPN host, reporter, and featured producer. And some of you may know her name as she was a former Miss America. You'll never get away from that.
They were all, it was way before they were born.
So that is your claim to fame for people my age. So she earned a bachelor's degree in communications from BYU and a master's in organizational communications from the U. Same question. Why did you choose to focus your education and then your career in this field?
So, you know, Susan, it's so interesting to hear how other people got into it, because when Ruth's describing hers, I'm going, I was scared of people. I didn't like writing. So how did I land in communications? And like Sonita, it took me a little bit to figure out what I wanted, because when I went to BYU, it was going to be piano performance and then international relations. So I don't quite know. I just remember that somebody said, why don't you try communications? And it turns out that I knew how to, I guess, read a prompter. And then from there, it just kind of turned into, I do like discovering these different storylines. I like discovering what stories will change lives and will impact the way we think about our society and just life in general. So that's kind of how it just morphed from television to what I do today.
Thank you so much. I love the backgrounds, and they're each so different. So I'm going to go back to you, Ruth. I won't make you start every single one of the questions, but I'll start with you one more time. So let's open the door to a conversation of what types of careers are available. And you have really had kind of a mix, for-profit, and now, you know, Bonneville, I've always assumed is a nonprofit, but maybe it's not. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I started in television as a news reporter, and then moved to be a news anchor. And I anchored the news all around the country. I was on television for ABC, CBS, NBC in Phoenix, in Washington, D.C. at a couple of stations, and then in Salt Lake City. And I did that for almost 25 years before I kind of switched over. And then I've done public affairs or public relations for companies. And now at Bonneville, it is a for-profit, actually. So what Bonneville is, it's a for-profit corporation that owns 24 radio stations and 1 television station, KSL TV. So we own stations in Sacramento, California, San Francisco, Seattle, Denver, Phoenix, and here. So it's really a big radio station, 24 radio station, and then a big television station. So it still is for profit, but I think that my career kind of shows you that there are so many things. If you learn how to be a good writer, be a good speaker, understand business, if you just have some of these basic skills, you can do a lot of things, and you can do kind of a little piece of marketing and marketing communications, or you can do public relations or public affairs or government affairs and government relations. And so what this really is you need people, no matter how great AI gets, you still need people as connective tissue. And you think about what we all do is we bring other people and groups together, whether that's selling them advertising time or just pulling us all together to do great things in our communities.
Yeah. And at Nu Skin, you probably had a very different role in terms of helping the company, you know, engage in terms of public relations and get some coverage and media and so forth. So this is probably a shift, but it's a little bit of a shift, but like that was really fun to get our executives on Bloomberg Television or in Forbes magazine or some things like that. That was really fun. We did executive communications, which is another entirely different type of communications. But then we also did, you know, different types. So internal communications is another thing that you can do, or government relations, because we were in nearly 50 countries and we had to deal with those governments. Oh. So that was a really big job. Then I was over the nonprofit. That may be what you were thinking of. I was over the nonprofit foundation at Nu Skin. So that was really fun as well. Oh, awesome. Sonita, any other kinds of areas that come to mind for you? You're in a university,
Yeah.
and so that's a bit of a different role. But
Mhm.
yeah, talk about that same topic.
Yeah, I think Ruth hit a lot of it. In regards to like maybe specific positions, you could be a journalist, just like Ruth and Sharlene Sharlene were. I try to get over this cold. So a journalist, if you're in marketing communications, I mean, the world is your oyster. You could be a content creator. You can work on social media. You can do blogging and advertising. And since we're talking about PR, there's a great part with like event planning and, you know, organizing these large events and marketing them out. You could also be a speech writer or a technical writer. There's so many different avenues in different spaces within just the communications and PR field. And yeah, and just a reminder that I can go into any different type of business. Doesn't matter where.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure a lot of people think about the speech writing that you brought up. I don't know if all of you have done that, where you've done, you know, everybody. Okay, you've done the speech. I need one of you to work for me, I think. So.
Listen, top executives, Susan, they have, 24 hours in a day, and everybody wants a piece of them. And these top executives need people that can dash them off a quick executive message for many different audiences. So you may never want to speak it publicly, but you might be an amazing communicator by what you write for other people.
I love that. Anything to add, Sharlene? I'll do that, and then I'll give you the next question. Anything to add?
So, I mean, just to reinforce what they've already said, like when Ruth said writing and speaking, oh my gosh, if you can write and speak, you can be in any industry, because every single industry needs that communication component, right? And that connective tissue of the relationship building. When I was looking at different, because I've had a really weird career trajectory, and it's gone from sports broadcasting to military to finance, and yet the same needs are there for that communication piece to tell the story, and that relationship piece where you have to build connections with people that AI cannot replace. You really have to have that people connection.
That's such a good point. I mean, you can do your jobs no matter if you're at a university or any industry, STEM companies, tech companies, any kind. It's a need wherever you go. So, Sharlene, what associates, bachelor's, graduate degrees really do you think pave the way for really being successful? In some careers, it's really, you need to go down one path. I'm really interested to hear your insights on this, all three of you. Sharlene.
Well, I'm a big believer in higher education, huge believer in a master's degree. I think that made all the difference for me anyway, getting onto the leadership track. So in terms of communications, the way that I went was a little bit accidental. I mean, I got the communications degree in broadcast journalism, but with my master's, I was planning on an MBA. The problem was, at the time that I was doing it, I didn't have the ability to do the executive at night because I still had little kids at home, and I just couldn't make that work. But when I went to the U and I said, will you let me take one class a semester? And they said, yes, but only in this other area. And they showed me organizational communications, and I said, boy, that matches what I'm doing. It took me 5 years to do it, but it was really a perfect fit for me to be able to match that now with what I'm doing, because I'm doing both internal and external communication. So I love that route that I took.
Any thoughts, Sonita, on that? Each of you kind of went a little bit, but have you seen people come into your career, into these careers from other areas as well?
In regards to education and degrees?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think I would recommend, if you're interested in going into communications and PR, I would probably recommend at least an associate or a bachelor's degree. And you'll see a range from communications to English. I've seen business degrees, marketing degrees, also in a little bit, I think a digital media degree as well. So there's lots of different paths in education that you could take and can land on communication. So that's what I've seen in my experience though.
Great. And Ruth, anything else to add on
Well,
that?
I would just echo what you've already heard. Just education is going to propel you forward. It's a must. You can almost do anything if you just also add in a few good strategic communications classes. You might be an economics major, but if you know how to communicate what you're learning in econ, then you're going to be set.
Right. That puts you at the top. Then when there's a differentiator, it's like, oh, this person can actually communicate. We're going to separate that person, let them take that leadership.
Yeah, and it works inversely as well, because if you're a journalist in a newsroom and they say, who are we going to give this complex econ story to? Oh, she's an econ major, and so she understands the intricacies of this. So she also is a communicator, but she's an econ major and she knows it. So it works both ways.
I also wanted to add, Ruth, that we, at least in academia, I've seen we need more science writers. So if anyone out there is interested in science and STEM and medicine, the industry has kind of shrunk a little bit, and there's such a need for science technical writers out there. So,
and one last thing, and that is, if you look at some of the very top journalists in the world, they are lawyers, doctors. They have higher education degrees, and then they choose to communicate about that subject.
That's such an amazing point. So Sonita, let's have you answer this question. Talk about family friendly. Like often young women, we want careers where we can have things that are family friendly, whether you have kids or not. There's this work, non-work kind of side, so maybe you just want to work in the community. Do you think there really are careers that are family friendly?
Personally, I do. I think there are careers in the communication space that are family friendly. Now, I will probably mention, maybe like a breaking news editor. That's probably a little bit more around the clock. You definitely have to give a little bit more time. If you're a PR spokesperson for like a really large institution, that can also be a little bit more time consuming. So with that said, other parts in communications are very, very family friendly. If you want to be, a featured journalist, if you want to be a communications writer for a marketing firm, or if you want to be a website writer, all those types of jobs within the industry are very, very family friendly. And I would also say that it has a lot to do with definitely with the company you work for as well, and whether or not if they, support those values. So if you have those types of positions, definitely family friendly for sure.
What I know, because I work with so many people in your field, is that there's a lot of people that work as freelance writers or whatever, and they choose their schedule. They work part-time, they work full-time. There are opportunities. This whole, I have to choose 100% with family, 100% with work. I think there's a mix of things. ESPN, was that a rough one with family?
Yeah, it really was, because and I did have to make a decision and step down. But I had 7 years full time with them, and then I did 9 years freelance with the 3 little kids at home. But there is no way that I could have held the schedule. I remember making that decision when they called me and said, "We need you in Los Angeles next week," and I said, "It's my daughter's birthday party. I'm not going." And that doesn't work for them, right? And I had to understand there's certain jobs that it doesn't work. So going freelance now, I can just say, well, we'll do that event and we'll do that event. It's not going to pay as well. It's necessarily, for some it might.
But you have choices. You have choices.
You have choices.
Right. I love that. Ruth, any other comments from you?
No, just agree with them. I raised 5 kids, and during the time that they were little, I cut back and just only anchored the 10 o'clock news. So I was home all day, and then I'd go in the evenings. You make less money during those years, but it's okay. You keep your feet in, you keep your, toes dipped in that water. And then when my kids got bigger and then I just went full time and back again. And it's, and the world is a much friendlier place for families and accordion careers and things like that.
And this, I'll shift to the next question. I'm looking at time and it's moving along. And I want to grab a couple of questions from folks that are watching us today. But and this is going to be a tough one because the jobs are so different, but like if you finish a bachelor's degree, let's say, I mean, what's the range of salary? Is it an okay salary that you can make? That's a tough question because so many, like, reporters are so different than this and that. But any overall comments? Who wants to take that one on?
Well, I can start with just some of my writers. So I've got a few writers. They range in age. Some are just barely out of, there's one that's right out of school, but he is so knowledgeable and he's such a great writer, and we need to keep him. And he's probably at, I want to say, I think he's at 50 or 60, and that's almost out of school, 60,000, I should say. And that's pretty darn good for entry level.
Yeah.
You know, it depends on where you go to work and how much they really value keeping your employees, especially good ones. So
And
that,
you hit on something really important. Did you hear what she said? We need to keep him. And so if you want to be one of those employees that the company says we need to keep you, which that's what all of us want, then right now, while you're in junior high and high school, start building those skills, like go write for the school newspaper, or go write a newsletter, or like start a blog, or just even if you're writing your own journal, you can do that online. It's there's so many apps and ways to do it. Start building your skills right now.
oh,
I love
amen.
that. And I am going to just say something blunt, because, you know, there are people, and I know reporters that write for smaller papers, and they don't get paid very well
They don't
sometimes.
get painful at all. No. I would go to a corporation.
So
it's going to be
communications. Yeah, they didn't pay well at all. I hardly made anything when I got right out of school. I made in the teens, thousand. I made $18,000 a year for my first job. So
hey, mine was too. It was 18,000. I was a junior high teacher.
Wow.
Yeah, and so so it starts low, but here's the thing: don't be discouraged with the lower start. And like if you're good, they're not that now. They're 30, 40, 50, 60, depending on what your job is.
Right.
But now the sky is the limit, really, what you can do, because if you've got a great communicator that's the right hand of the CEO, invaluable, and you're making a lot of money.
Right.
I love that. Sonita, I'm going to give you a question from the audience. So what story, or I'll just call it media placement, this is what someone who's watching sent, are you most proud of? Was there something that pops up to the top of your list that you did that was just fun and you were proud of? That's a hard question, maybe.
It is. There are a couple of things that I'm definitely very proud of. The first one that really sticks out to mind is a piece that I worked with the vice president for research on during the George Floyd protest. And the reason why that was such a pivotal and important piece is that being in STEM, in research and science, we've kind of been taught we're objective, right? Everything, we look at it from an objective mind. We don't get into politics or anything like that. And then after, summer of 2020, we decided, you know what, we are going to write an inclusive message that says that, no, we do want to make sure that we promote that diversity and inclusion, and things that are happening in the news are tragic. And so just acknowledging that and writing that piece was just such a powerful moment in my career. And then also, on top of that, it had great turnout. The Tribune posted it.
Oh, good.
Posted it. And we were really nervous, posting something like this, because we're like, oh, we don't really get into this stuff, but it was just so important to do that. So that's probably my most favorite piece. My next one that kind of goes right along with it is anything through COVID. All of us that survived COVID and rapid communications on a rapid scale was just definitely the toughest and challenging time, for sure, at least for me. So
right.
So Ruth, thank you so much. So Ruth, I'm going to shift over to you, and I'm going to give you a totally different question. If you have one really proud thing that comes to
go
mind.
ahead. Those were great. Next question.
What are the hardest parts of the profession, and how did you overcome, or how do you overcome those hardest parts?
You know, I honestly can tell you I've loved every step of the way. There are challenges at every turn.
Yeah.
So right now I would say the rapidity that with which things are moving and changing. Like we
Oh,
used to kind of hold an audience hostage. If they wanted to get the weather report, then they had to stay till quarter after the hour to hear it, or the sports highlights at 25 after. That's totally changed. These guys that are watching this, they can't even relate to that because they just watch what they want when they want. They just look at their phones or their computer and get weather, sports, news, all that stuff. So it's changing. So we are having to meet them where they are, and that's really digitally. So we're just trying to keep up.
and Sharlene, over to you on either one of those two questions that I just
Oh,
asked.
those are great questions, right? You know what I've loved about my career in communications is the variety, because I said earlier, you know, that when you can communicate, you can go into anything. So I love the time with sports. I love the time, almost 16 years working directly with the military and learning all those acronyms. And then what I'm doing now. But there was a defining moment that anytime somebody says, what's your favorite moment of your career? There was a definite defining moment that set me on a path for everything else. And it was when I realized that I am bold enough and fearless enough to do whatever needs to be done. And it was during the World Cup soccer when it was held in the United States in 1994. And the biggest name on the planet was Diego Maradona from Argentina. I had lived in Argentina. I lived there during my high school years. I was there when they won the first World Cup in 1978. I was super excited. My producer said, you're going to go get an interview with Diego Maradona. Well, he was not giving any interviews to anybody because he was under investigation for drug abuse. So he says, well, I'll go do a stand-up anyway, and then, you know, we'll cut. Anyway, so I go over to this stadium and but the day before, thinking I'm not going to get an interview, but I decided if I were to get this interview, what would I ask him? And I wrote everything down, translated it to Spanish, committed it to memory. And sure enough, I was able to figure out a way to get him. And I did it by going to the opposite side of the field where there were no press. There was 200 over on this side where he was playing. I went to the opposite side, waited 20 minutes, and then started yelling at him. And he came over, my cameraman was there, and we got the only interview of the World Cup. I can do this. I can do anything. It was just one of those moments where you go, oh, I just need to be prepared.
Oh, I love that. And I love that message too. So it's almost time to wrap up. We had a few more questions, but I want to give you the last question that I think will sum it up, and maybe just do a quick answers, few sentences. But here it is. Ruth, I'll start with you. Why would you encourage young women to consider a career in communications?
Because it offers so many avenues for success. It offers avenues for success with a family or without a family. You meet the greatest people in, you meet other communicators. Sharlene and I have been dear friends for a long time. I'm excited now that I know Sonita, and I'm sure we'll cross paths some. It's just such a great place for community, for networking. And also, if you're a curious person, you can be a lifelong learner because you're still telling stories and you're learning well into your, till you retire and beyond. It's so fun. It's so fun, you guys. You should, if you're inclined to communications, it's hard, it's a ton of work, and it's so fun.
Oh, I love that. Sonita, same question.
Yeah, I agree with Ruth. It is a lot of fun. I would say that my colleagues are just working with a bunch of communications, like in the industry. My colleagues are so thoughtful and empathetic, and so it's a great group to be around. And on top of that, you get to be creative and you're empowered to write the story and tell the message. I think that a lot of people have come to realize how empowering communications is, especially during COVID period. And there's a lot of change and impact you can make through communication. So it's a great industry to be in.
Thank you. And Sharlene, same question.
Wow, well, they said it perfectly. You have the opportunity to influence, and you get to shape how people think about things. You know, that's pretty powerful. And the variety, the fun, you know, and I do need that in my life. And when you're in communications, you are allowed to discover the passions that you have, and you can go down almost any route and discover your passion and go, oh, that's the area that I want to be in, and I will use my communication skills there.
Thank you so much. Thanks to all three of you, Ruth, Sonita, and Sharlene, for being part of today's webinar. And to all of you listening in, remember that you do have so many career options. I encourage you to explore all of these options, and then also consider your individual interests and passions, your gifts, talents, and strengths. And then combined with a college or university education, it will really help prepare you for an engaging and meaningful profession throughout your life. So thanks to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.